In the previous video, we learned about the registration process and how we implement that. Now in this video, we will learn about the login process. I have already designed the XML layout. So in the XML layout, first two of the labels, one is title and one is headline. Then I have email with edit box, then password with edit box. Then I have a label for get password. It will redirect to the another screen where we will enter an email to recover the password. Then a relative layout with a button and progress bar. Same is the case like we did in the registration layout. Then we have a label haven't registered. So this will refer to the registration screen like we already have a registration fragment. So we will navigate from there to registration fragment. Then in the Kotlin class, I have already added some of the function like the validation function. We will check if the email and the password is correct or not. Then I have another function which is called observer. In this function, we will observe the live data to check the UI state. Then we have two labels, one is register and also for get password, then another button login password. So all of three have listeners on it. So in the login, we will call another function. The login will pass email and password, and that is declared in the view model. So you have the flow from fragment to view model, and then we will create another function in the auth repository. I will go to the auth repository, and there we have already that function login user. We'll go to the auth repository implementation and we'll call the function sign in with email and password. But if you notice, we have a user object there. We don't need that in the login case because we need only email and password. So I change that and will pass these two parameters, email and password. Then I add it to the callbacks. So I pause the video and edit quickly these callbacks there. If we notice, we have two callbacks. One is add on complete listener, one is add on failures listener. Now I'll call that function from the view model, which is already declared in the repository. I will set the live data. So once we get the UI state from the repository, then we will set that to the login live data and will observe in the login fragment there. So you have different UI states. The user successfully log in, it will navigate to not listing screen. So I will copy the code from the register fragment and paste it in the login fragment. We'll also need to add that fragment to the navigation file. Simply click on the plus icon and we'll add that login fragment. Now we'll add the navigation between the login and not listing fragment as well. And also the login can also go to the register fragment when user click on haven't registered yet. We'll change that start destination as well because the app should be start from the login screen. Now we are pretty much done with the navigation. We'll change that action ID to the correct one. So once the user login, it will navigate to the not listing screen from there. In the registration, we will navigate there to the registration fragment. So if a user click on the login button, we need to check the validation first as well. So I'll add that check there. If it's fast, then we'll call the login function. So we are pretty much done with that fragment except the forget password label. And let's run the application and to see if it's working or not. I will copy that already registered email and we'll type the wrong password first and to see it crash. So let's check out the crash report, what it says. In the crash report, it's referring to the dagger-hilt. So because in the view model we have used the dagger-hilt annotation, for that purpose the login fragment should also have the Android entry point annotation as well. Let's rerun the application and to see if it's working or not. We'll paste the same password and we'll type the wrong password. Click on the login button. Now I am pressing the button but nothing happening because the observer function is not calling, and for that purpose the login live data is not observing anything. So I'll call that function. Now I will rerun the application and to see if the observer is observing or not. Click on the login button. Now it's working, but the problem is that we are getting the toast message 2 times. If you notice there, here is the second one. Now I debug that code and find out the reason. Let me show you in the debugging mode. If you notice, so that in the failure case the task is not successful, so it invoked the UI failure case there in else case. Now for the second time it's also trigger in the failure listener case as well, so I'll remove the else condition there. We don't need that because on failure listener also doing the same thing. I will run the application and to check if it's working or not. Let's type email and also wrong password. Click on the login. It seems the toast message shows 1 time, so it's working fine. Now we'll try the correct password to see if the login is working or not. Login successfully, but it didn't navigate to the not listing screen. Seems like something is broken. We'll check the live data first. All the UI states are correct. Now I'll go to the view model. This function is also seem to correct. We'll go to the repository implementation. There seems like things are wrong. So you're passing email, password, and also result lambda function and sign in with the email and password. Now on add on complete listener, task is successful. So we are invoking actual UI state failure case. So that was the reason it's not working. So in the failure case, in the live data, it will go to the failure state there. It will not go to the UI success case. We'll change that to success because it's successfully logged in there. We'll run the application and now it seems working fine. So that's it for the login functionality. Now I'll repeat what we have done so far. First thing, we have designed the login layout, then go to the login fragment. The fragment we have the validation function while checking the fields value, then observer which observing the login live data, and also register label which will refer to the register screen, forget password label, and login function. So these two labels will have a listener on there. And so in the login button, when user click on it, it will check first validation. Then we have a login function inside the view model which accepts email and password. And we'll go to the repository. So in repository implementation, we are calling a function sign in with email and password. Then we have two listener on complete listener, add on failure listener. It's returning the UI states and which observing they are in the login live data.